All right, guys, it is Sunday, so planning on mowing my yard today, but priorities, man. So the weekend I work on my stuff. Got to do something to keep me kind of sane, you know what I mean? So since those 55s came in from Texas, I've been itching to do something to them. So anyway, I worked a little bit last night, Saturday night, on the two-door post body. I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, I've gathered up some pieces and parts for it. I've had a couple of friends bring stuff by. Terry, the subscriber, brought some parts by twice already. I'm supposed to meet up with him next week, and he's given me a rotisserie and some other stuff that's in his shop. So he thinks he has quite a bit of parts I can use. So that's really awesome. He's brought a lot of stuff by already. My friend Scott Smith, who I go to the Salvage with quite a bit, he brought me a couple of parts I'll show you in a second. But anyway, if you haven't caught those videos, you need to check out my channel. And I had a subscriber named Randy bring a 55 4-door 210 series and a 2-door 210 series post car here, delivered them for me and gave them to me to see them built on the channel. So the 4 doors for parts, the 2 doors to build. However, both cars have their good points and bad points, but there was several people in the comments that said it'd be better to convert the 4-door to a 2-door, and there's no way I'm going to go through that much work. I've done it before. I'm not doing it again. It's a lot of work, and when you're done, you've got a 4-door that's now a 2-door with your titling process. So anyway, I'm going to build the 2-door. The 2-door is in better shape structure-wise than the 4-door is. The 4-door has good outer sheet metal, but that's about where it stops. So anyway, this is the 4-door that he brought, and I did clean all the crap out of it and used the garden hose and washed it out. But this thing is, the floors, the back side of the rockers, all the underbody braces for the support for the floor are just wasted. Like this car's really rusty in here. Even the bottoms of the B pillars are gone. That back there is all gone, and the trunk floor is really rotted after I cleaned it out. I've got parts put back there now, but I cleaned it all out and washed it out with a garden hose, and it kind of looks like some of this up here. It's not big giant holes, but it has a lot of little holes, so it'd have to have, you know, it needs a trunk floor. It'd need a full floor with all the braces and everything. So it's just, I'm not converting a 4-door that's rusted out this bad to a 2-door when the 2-door is in better shape, just needing like the roof skin and you know, a quarter panel job put on it. So, and some floor work, but the floors aren't as bad as this one. So I am not spending $1,200 on a quarter panel. For one, I don't have that kind of money laying around. When I do get money, I have to use it for other stuff. But anyway, this is a perfect quarter panel right here. Other than it's got some damage down here in the lower rear, but that is that's a good enough quarter to basically weld together and then trim down, you know, skin the door and all that and make it work. So I'm going to be converting a 4-door door and quarter panel into a 2-door is what I'm going to do. So this deck lid underneath is pretty nice, and out here it's not too bad. It does have some, you know, rusting on the top, but it's not terrible. Somebody took a hatchet to this and just really mangled it up. They ruined the latch and everything, so it's pretty fried. The deck lid on the 2-door is really crunchy, rusty underneath. The skin is actually coming loose from the understructure. But otherwise, other than replacing the metal right there, that is fine. So my buddy Scott Smith brought me this. This is the back of a deck lid that's cut off, and it was loaded. It had the lock in it, it had the tag bracket, it had the emblem, it had the latch in it, and the latch cover on the back. So all those pieces I needed, now I have them. And the best part is nobody's tried to pry the lock out of it or anything, but I can use that very center piece right there to butt weld into that deck lid. So that'll make a nice deck lid out of it. He brought me this fender, and the fender, you know, it looks like hell, but when I get done blasting it, it should look pretty decent. It does have a pretty good dent right up here in the front, right above the body line, but this metal is very easy to work on. And the eyebrow is actually in good shape, other than it's got a dent. Anyway, a little hammer and dolly work will go a long way on that, and some blasting, get it down to clean metal, but that is a usable fender. And I had this fender which it's in about the same shape as that. It's going to need a little bit of tweaking here and there, a little bit of dolly work, you know, maybe a little bit of work, but it does have a little spot of rust. Looks like somebody covered it with filler over here, but the main part of the eyebrow is still pretty good, so I don't have to buy that expensive patch. I'll just patch in a piece there, hand build it. So I've got a pair of nice usable fenders. I've got a really mint set of lower fender extensions in my shed, so I've got that taken care of. So this deck lid here on this car doesn't look too bad. Somebody did pry the lock out, and it's rusted over here, but the skin's coming loose from the understructure. It's all completely crunchy all the way around, and it's even rusted across the bottom, so I don't really want to mess with this deck lid. This car has a pretty nice trunk floor. I don't have to do any work on it. I may have to put the very tail piece in back here, which is not a big deal. But to me, the biggest visual of this car, the worst part, is this quarter panel. This is what really, like if somebody went out to look at this car to buy it, this would deter a lot of people right here, because it's going to need a $1,200 patch panel, you know, a full quarter panel, $1,200 now. So I don't have $1,200 to spend on one piece of sheet metal. So I am going to cut up OEM sheet metal, and I will do it like a puzzle piece and butt weld everything and finish it out. And I can guarantee you when I'm done in raw metal, it'll look fantastic, and it won't have any oil canning in it. So no doubt it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm not afraid of work. I love doing metal work. That is actually one of my specialties, is doing metal work on old cars. I take a lot of pride in my work, and I do pretty decent work. So anyway, you'll just have to stick around to check out that. But what I did last night before it got dark on me, is actually getting dark on me when I was doing this, because I spent the last 2 hours late last night doing this. I went ahead and put this door on that Randy gave me, because this is the door off the car, and it is crunched. So this car is taking an impact, obviously, but anyway, that door is pretty much junk. I still have some pieces to take off of it. But he brought this door, and it has some dents in it that I can dolly out and use a stud gun on. It's a pretty good door otherwise. It does have some rust holes along the bottom, but I can patch it, I think, maybe off the bottom of that door. I don't care about cutting up and patching stuff. I don't care, especially when I'm using OEM stuff. I know it's going to fit, unlike this lower patch panel right here, and I'll show you this. So this quarter panel has been seamed right through here and all the way down, and then they've used, this is an aftermarket patch panel right here, and they've cut it up through here, and it's part of the jam and all. So this is all an aftermarket piece. It just probably came raw metal and they never primed it, but it's beat all to hell. It didn't match up. The panels don't match the way they're rolled, so that would have needed a lot of work to get that fixed before it was all finished out. But most likely the stick welder is what really warped the crap out of this, and you can see they had a ton of filler in it. But anyway, the worst part about this patch panel is the jam right here. This does not match. This has a rolled door jamb edge right here. It's supposed to be a 90-degree sharp turn right there from the factory right here. So this has been seamed in right here. So there's no way. What they should have done, if they didn't have a bead roller with a tipping die, that's how you can sharpen that back up. What I would have done before the panel got put on is I would have laid it down, and I would have used a hammer and a wide blade metal chisel, and I would have hit it on the back side right in that edge to sharpen that up like that. That's what I would have done, because I don't have any tipping dies for my bead roller. But anyway, the problem is that there's a difference in 4-door than 2-door, so I'll show you that. All right, so this jam section right here I got from Perky's Salvage for 20 bucks. Somebody had cut the tail off a 56 2-door sedan, so I just hacksawed it off and took this with me, because this wasn't attached anymore down here. But it was imperative for me to do what I'm going to do. I needed a factory jam piece, and I don't want to buy aftermarket parts. I know this OEM stuff, when I butt it together, everything's going to match up perfectly. So I wanted one of these, and it's a good thing I knew where this was. So the price was right, so I snagged it. This is the difference in a 2-door. This is one piece. It's spot welded on, so this is one piece. This is a 4-door. This is a 2-piece jam. You can see the difference. It's actually, I guess, 3-piece on this, but anyway, this is quite a bit different. It doesn't have these stamps in it right here. So, you know, using the B-pillar piece, it just wouldn't have worked out. So I needed that. So this was the main puzzle piece that I would have needed to pull off what I'm going to do to make it look OEM when I'm done. So I am going to cut it right up here, and I'm going to drill the spot welds out of it, and I remove this, and I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch of this all the way down. So I'm just using the jam and a 1/2 inch over of this outer edge flat part right here all the way down. So I will patch it into the 2-door, and then I'm going to cut down the door skin, remove the door skin from the door structure, because 4-door doors are longer. A 2-door is going to be about right in here somewhere. So I'm going to cut this down after the skin's removed, and then I'll butt weld that part of the door to the back part of that quarter panel. I'll have to butt weld all this, and then where I cut that through here will be butt welded up to my 1/2 inch line right here. So when I'm done, after it's all butt welded in, it'll all fit up perfectly because it's all OEM metal. That's the best part. So the door on this car is pretty good. It does have a rust spot down there, but I can patch it in, you know what I mean? I can even use a piece of this outer skeleton down there if I had to. I mean, it's just sheet metal, it has a little curve in it. But this quarter panel is pretty good, except this lower down here is pretty spanked on it. So I may cut it off of that other 4-door sedan quarter that I have and patch it in. But anyway, that's the difference in a 2-door to a 4-door. All right, so I am going to be cutting this probably right through here. I'm not messing with any of this belt line on this car. I'll take the stainless off so I don't mess it up, but I'm going to cut it right along this edge right up here. And the reason is it's got a pretty good hard, where it was, you know, put in a press and made a stamp. That is going to be really tight right there, so I won't get much warpage here because of how tight the curve is. But anyway, I'll bring it out here enough to where I can get in there with the, you know, the roll lock and be able to grind the weld and stuff. But I'm going to cut this right along here all the way down. Now I may go up in here and then over, drill the spot welds out, and use this whole upper area off that 4-door, this whole jam piece and all up to right here off this factory. So it may come down and then over to get to bypass all their crap, because this is all warped and tweaked. When I do my metal work, I do it to where when it's welded, I tack, so nothing gets overheated. And then when I grind it, I do the same thing when I grind, because it's what most people do, and that's how you end up warping your panels. Everybody takes the time to tack away from each other, you know, space the tacks out to let the metal cool. Then they'll go in with a flap wheel on a grinder, turn it on high speed, and just go right at it. So that grinder puts so much heat into that metal, it'll put as much in there as you're welding it, and it'll just sink and turn blue. So if you use an air grinder, or like my angle grinder with the 36 grit disc, I'll grind a little 1-inch spot like halfway down, and then I'll move down and do another spot, and then I'll kick over and do another spot. So I'm not putting as much heat in, and then when I'm done, it usually is pretty decent. So anyway, when I'm done patching in all these 4-door and 2-door pieces that I have, it'll be all OEM metal that everything will fit and butt up perfectly together. Like, I don't have to worry about this wheel well lip opening not being identical to factory. It's all gonna fit. And I can guarantee you, in raw metal, when I'm done with finish work on it, it's going to look awesome. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about it. But to me, that is the worst part of the car, is this quarter panel. It needs roof work. Now, I had stated I'm probably going to take the 4-door roof off. These skins are pretty difficult to remove. So I may end up just patching this one, but I definitely need to blast all around it first to find out, you know, if there's areas of the roof that's still pretty good. I'll probably just end up cutting out pieces from the 4-door and butt welding them in and re-plug welding them in and doing it that way. It'd be a little bit less work, but I just don't know yet until I get there. But to me, this is the most ugly part of the car, and that's what turned a lot of people off, I'm sure, if they were ever looking at it to buy. Plus, it had that crushed door on it, and I put the other door he had on there. No doubt it's got dents in it, but I can work metal out pretty good. So anyway, the door fits the car pretty good. I piddled with it a little bit last night. I got the latch all redone and cleaned up and lubed, and I mean, it fits pretty good. So this is exactly what they've done. This is why this is like this. If you look at this jam section's way back here from here. I would bet the door was off the car, or they left the door open and never thought to close it to check the fit of anything. So if you're going to do like this particular patch panel, if you buy it to put in here, I would definitely have the door on the car and fit and making sure the line is good, then remove that piece and try to put your piece in, and then you can fit it to where you have a good line. So I've seen guys do cab corners on pickup trucks, old ones, without the doors on them, and the patch panel is way back, and there's just no way it's going to work, you know what I mean? Unless you got a lot of filler, I guess. But that is pretty much the plan. There is, I'd love to just hacksaw this thing, or not hacksaw, but I like to get it off of there, you know what I mean? Hack it off of there. And cut all these other pieces off and start building a puzzle piece. But it's probably going to take a good solid week, you know, a lot of hours to get this quarter panel dialed in. But at the end of the day, it's my car, and I'm not spending $1,200. MIG gas and MIG wire is cheap, so I won't spend $1,200 in MIG gas and MIG wire and grinding discs, you know what I mean? So pretty excited. So when Scott and I went to the salvage, we ended up going to 2 salvages, and I got some goodies. So I did get this quarter panel. It has a pretty good lower area that I might end up using. I got a core support, but the bottom's rusty, but I had a really nice lower here that doesn't have any pitting in it. It does have some holes in it from, you know, factory holes that are drilled in it, but it's a nice lower. So now I've got a good top bar and a good lower. I got a really good deal on that. I got a decent hood that is definitely fixable, and then I got a really minty splash apron. This thing is really nice. So I'm, you know, gathering up parts. It's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. It's like a treasure hunt. This is the front clip off of this 2-door, and as you can see, that core support, or the splash apron, is pretty crunched out. This whole clip up here is pretty rough, man. I'm going to try to rebuild the inner fenders, but both splash aprons are pretty much junk. This one's rusted out pretty bad and really thin, and that one over there doesn't even have this piece on it, and it's pretty crunchy too. So I do need to get 2 lower splash aprons for sure. Let's see, my buddy Terry's brought me some parts here and there that he had laying around. It's pretty awesome. That lower piece of the windshield stainless right there, this goes to the lower right here. That was the only piece I was missing between the 4-door and this car. They're all nice pieces with no dents in them, and I was missing that lower, which I thought I'd just get at Perky's, but he brought me one. He brought a whole bunch of stuff. All right, the 56 B-pillar, the $20 B-pillar, went under the knife. So I removed what I need, basically, and I did cut it a little wide on the outside edge here. I did cut it wider than what I need. I'm going to thin it down a little bit, but I'm going to wait until after it's on the car. But this will be the first piece that I actually install in that quarter panel section before I, you know, really go in and remove everything and try to fit everything up. That way when I install this, I can get my gap to my door really nice and put it where I want it. But if you've never tore into one of these, they have an inner piece right here that your striker goes to. It goes on the back, and it's spot welded on, and it's actually wider than this piece, obviously. But anyway, it spot welds on it. Actually, this piece goes over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a drive-through window in the quarter panel. That way I can get in there. I'll have access. I'll have to remove the window and the regulator and all that, but I'll have access to get in there to the back side of this to drill the pilot holes for where the spot welds are. You can see these really plain as day if you can look back up in there. So I just did it on the back side. I used an 1/8 inch drill bit and drilled through it. It was only 5 on there, and then the 2 on this thing, and then this piece comes out. So I'm going to try to do it the same way, remove that, but leave this on the other quarter, and kind of bend this back a little bit. And then when I go to put this in there, try to snake all this in there together. But I don't want to cut this out of the car. I want this piece to stay in there because it does go further into the body. So anyway, I just want to use this piece right here. So it was This lower down here was smashed in right here, and it had this bulged out, so I went back in and hammered and dollied that back out. And this bottom lower down here is really rusty, so I'm just going to chop it off. I'm probably just going to chop it off like right here and over, and the 4-door piece is identical on that particular part, I should say. The 4-door has a 2-piece jam, the 2-door has a 1-piece jam. So this section of the 4-door right here is identical to that. Even the angle that it goes up at the back, you can kind of see it kicks up. So that is exactly the piece that I need. So I'll cut this off and patch that on there. It's going to be a lot of you know, cutting pieces out of these cars and cutting everything down to where it fits good, and then welding it on, grinding it, finishing it out real nice. But I don't care. It's I don't care about the time, as long as I don't spend any money, you know what I mean, or little of, we'll say. That's the only way I've always been able to build cars. I've always had to do stuff like this to actually have something nice, and this is no different. And I can tell you the feeling that you get after you've gone through and done something like this, when it's all together and looks good in raw metal, it's a feeling like no other, let me tell you. Okay, so it's kind of funny, both cars are the dark green, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if 56 was called Neptune green or not. 55 was. Actually looks like the 56 green's a little bit darker, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's the exact same paint coat or not, but I'm basically going to replace this piece right here, and then everything else on that side of it is going to be from 4-door stuff. So that is the that was the most important puzzle piece to get, was this. So thankfully I got that. I can't use any of this down here because this is just straight jacked up. It is ruined. So I think what I might do is drag the extension cord and the cutoff wheel out here on the grinder, and I might just cut a, I'm not going to go very deep because I don't want the wheel getting in there and cutting anything behind it, but I think I'm going to cut a very large window out right here. That way I can, you know, get in there and drill out the spot welds and all the inner structure stuff and not hurt anything. This piece I can actually just start cutting to pieces. I can, like, you know, cut it and rip it out of there and then, you know, slowly remove little pieces by pieces. But if this quarter panel was off here and I had this piece in and started piecing in the 4-door stuff, it'd look like a total different car, obviously. But man, that's just really killing the whole car for me. There's no way I can do all this in one day, or half a day now. So I mean, I spent an hour and a half on that just trying to get that all surgically separated to save the panel. But I've still got to cut that bottom off and cut it off the other 4-door. Drill spot was out, cut it off 4-door and put on there. So a lot of work to do, but it's kind of fun. I enjoy metal work. Alright guys, in case you don't know, before you take a cutoff wheel, like I use a grinder, but I use a really thin metal cutting disc on there, and it really slices it really quick, gets it over with. If you're going to be cutting on a car and you plan on reusing the glass, do not let any of the sparks off that cutoff wheel get onto that glass, because it will melt into it and leave little black specks everywhere. So I don't care about this window. This window's got a lot of sand scratches where they painted the car and they just sanded glass and all. I mean, you can see it right there. Terry brought me one that's actually nicer, so I may go ahead and stick it in there. Not right now, but later, because that one over there is really clean and really nice. So I'll most likely, when I restore the car, I'll put brand new glass in it. But for now, you know, I'm not going to worry about this at all, because it's not worth messing with. But anyway, there's no door glass in it. The windshield's all messed up. So anyway, I'm gonna cut away. All right, there's your drive-through window. Would you like to place an order? So this is what a window regulator and stuff looks like from this side of the car. So now I can get in here. I might cut a little bit more of this off, actually, this edge off, to really get a good look in here. But I'll be able to, I'll probably take my little portable blaster, roll it out here, and just kind of lightly blast up in here, and that'll help me identify where the spot welds are. But anyway, I'll have to move the regulator in the window and stuff, which is not a big deal. This stuff needs to be cleaned anyway, blasted and all that. I think the best thing for these is soaking them in evaporest or muriatic acid. It cleans them up real good. And I mean, they're supposed to be zinc or cad plated and stuff, but I usually just spray paint everything. But that is the plan, man. Oh, they actually overlapped that patch panel on the, so the patch panel went inside of the flange there, looks like. Wow, they really done a number on that. But I want to leave all this factory stuff, and I'm going to drill those out, and that way this piece and all this will stay together. But yep, that's what it looks like. All right, so I'm kind of roughing it in here. I've got this just zap screwed on for now. It'll get welded, but I've trimmed everything to fit, and I'm giving myself a little bit of space in between so the weld will penetrate, give it room to wiggle around. So I need to get the rocker put on, and that way I can finalize the very bottom down there. It's the only thing I'm not happy with is the very bottom. I may have to split it off and then pull it down a little bit and then re-weld it, but I'm going to gap the door and everything anyway, so it's got a really super nice gap. But so you can see on this quarter piece that it has a deep kick here, and the door doesn't have that. So that's kind of common, but anyway, all I'll do is add a little bit of weld on the end of the door right there and then reshape it with a grinder and make it fit. But anyway, before I weld in the piece of the door right here that'll pretty much fill this whole thing, I'm going to cut out here a little ways, so I'm going to leave the belt line alone. But anyway, before I tack weld this in on this edge, I'm going to finish cutting this off. By the way, I just finished cutting this so I could get in there and look it over. But I'm going to put some steel that's the same thickness of the gap, and I'm going to place little blocks pieces in there, and I'm going to weld the door to the quarter right there. So that'll be a spacer, and then I'll tack it up on both ends. Then I'll trim that, and then I'll space in the piece there, get all the quarter put in. Then I'll go back and I'll cut those grinds loose and pull the pieces of steel out, and I should have a really nice gap. But I mean, so far it's looking pretty good, man. That's a lot of work just doing that, but I was being very meticulous with it. But anyway, I've got the rear striker bracket zap screwed together, so it's on there tight, and I've put a couple of screws in down here, and it's just to basically fit and everything. So I may have to undo them and refit, you know, it just depends. But I need to get the rocker in next to see where I can finish putting this stuff together. But I've got it perfectly even, like nothing's sticking out, everything's perfectly even. All the body lines, you know, because it's OEM metal, it's going to fit, you know. I think that's going to be really, really nice. Now I still got to cut this end off and put a piece off the four-door because this is all rusted out. Instead of trying to fab it, I'll just cut it off the four-door, and it's already shaped. I don't have to try to make it, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I cut a little wide up through there, but I'll just tack it back together. So yeah, that's it's got the perfect door jamb in it because it's GM's, you know, original stuff. That'll work, man. It's, you know, it's a little wiggly, kind of gets tighter toward the bottom, but this is very movable. Like, I can move this a lot, and that's why I said that I would put pieces of steel in there, and then I'll weld this quarter piece to the door when it's even and perfectly flat, even across. That way it's locked in, and then I can finish out welding the quarter up and get all that dialed in, and then I can go back and cut all that stuff loose and make the door come back open. But that'll work, man. That'll work really nice. But yeah, down here it's pretty much touching right here, so I may just cut that off and then drop it down and then weld it back, stretch it basically. So the one thing that I want to do, which I didn't really want to do it today, I'll take the zap screws back out of this and I'm going to blast the back side of this piece, and I'm going to blast all this up in here, and then I'm going to go in and put weld through primer all over everything on the back and all that kind of stuff, so it'll have a good coating on it. And then right before, you know, after I get all the quarter panel cut off, right before I go to final fit the quarter, after all the pieces are welded together and metal finished, and I've got it to where it'll come on and off real easily and it fits real good, I'll go in here and I'm gonna lightly blast like the inner panel and all along backside and everything, and I'm going to lightly blast it. And what I mean by that, I'm not going to sit there and try to get it to bare metal, because I'm going to spray pour 15 on it. It's designed to go over rust. I don't want to put it over bare metal, but I do want to knock some of the heavy stuff off first, and that lightly blasting will do just that. But that's enough for today, guys. I think I'm done. I mean, I've got a pretty good start, and I've got that jam piece back. It you know, it doesn't have the garbage on it that it did. Let me get this piece out of here. So check that out. This is the piece that they put in there. Turn it around backwards here. That is ugly, man. This piece was right here. So no bueno. So it's just being meticulous, and I'll do the entire quarter, all the pieces just like that, with a little bit of gap so the weld penetrates and it has room to move around. If you put metal butted up directly touching and you go to tack it, the metal's got nowhere to go, because metal moves around when you tack it a little bit, especially when you're putting two pieces together. So it's good to have that space in between there and let it penetrate real good. But anyway, I'm happy, man. That'll work. I've got you know, all the factory components. This is the little slip piece for the channel, and everything's still on there. Now I will have to plug weld that back on, but I guess that's it. I'm just rambling on. I'm pretty proud of what I did. It still needs a little bit more dialing in, but you know, I'll get it. But if all of it goes just like this, which it should with OEM metal, everything should fit good. Thanks for watching.